Two people. Most people have never heard the name. So she gets started with, that's the problem she experiences. So what does she do? She starts making the car. She solves the problem for herself. Now the retailers in the upscale scale stores can't stand the Hallmark cards either. Because so few people are buying, they have to charge a premium price. 25 cents, 50 cents for a Hallmark card in the 50s. Hers were $1.50. Now they're $3, $5, $10, whatever they are. For a greeting card, you bet. Now from this little business in 55, they grew off their kitchen table. Then they went and rent out some warehouse space down in Berkeley, Emeryville, when they got too big for their house. From there, you could give 90% in the early 60s in taxes to the government, or you could spend the money by buying your own warehouse. So in the early 60s, when that was kind of a troublesome area, late 60s, they started buying up the warehouses in Emeryville and Berkeley, and then into the 70s they grew. And in the late 70s, when Willie Nelson was doing all those farm aid things because all the farmers were in trouble, well, they went up north, way up north out of San Francisco, Suisun Valley, and bought up farmland around Fairfield, and built a state-of-the-art operations center up there, and then grew some more. And then in the 90s, there was this thing called the dot-com boom. Do you remember that? Yeah. Okay, so Siebel and all these people wanted to build these high-rises there, so they sold. They had like 6 square blocks of downtown Berkeley by this time, so they sold off that land to put up those high-rises, and they made a bundle off that. They got brought there. Now they got their 45-year-old daughter runs the place. It's probably $35–40 million in sales a year, and almost nobody's ever heard of them. You have, but almost nobody else has ever heard of this company. All started off that little idea. Why don't they just off a greeting card? Yeah. They also have something like Nike's got some retail stores to test things out. Marcel Sherman's got about 100 stores out there to test things out called Papyrus. See those? Yeah, that's the same company. So, and that's, most of the cards go elsewhere. That's just sort of testing things out, new stuff and all that. So all this starts off with, why don't they just? Such a small thing, and off they go. Keep it small, keep it within the family, keep it any way you want, or grow big. Martha Stewart is a billionaire off making the kitchen table a little bit nicer. Bill Gates is a billionaire off of, what do you call it? Computing is routine calculations, cheap and accurate. I've heard computerization reduced to that definition. Point is, 2 different fields. You can do whatever you want with it. Take it as far as you want, or take it just to whatever point you want to do. But it really doesn't matter what you get involved in. You can get involved in anything you want. I ever heard of Laurel Birch? Does that ring a bell? You guys both from the Bay Area or something? Laurel Birch started in the 60s selling her jewelry. She's, you know, Summer of Love and all that kind of stuff, making all these jewelries at be-ins and street fairs and all that kind of stuff. And her stuff was so wonderful that all the retail stores in San Francisco wanted to buy it. And they told their friends in New York and Chicago and Dallas and everybody else, and everybody wanted her stuff. And being a very sensitive artist, she's overwhelmed by all this. She took off, just fled for a while to this place nobody ever heard of before called Bali. This is in the 60s. And she hung out there, and then she'd see this just exquisite Balinese silver jewelry, fine filigree work, and she couldn't keep up with all the demand for her silver jewelry, and it was so overwhelming. So she said, I'll buy their silver jewelry and sell it next to mine, and then I can give them a market, and that'll be wonderful to do that. So she'd bring in this Balinese silver jewelry against hers, and it wouldn't sell. Why? Well, she's an artist. She could see the beauty and all that of the Balinese jewelry, but it's not for the U.S. market. So she'd end up melting down the silver jewelry just to get her value out of it so she could turn it into her jewelry, but she still had this problem. So much demand, but no production. What to do? Another trip to Bali, it dawned on her, which is what the game is. She would take their materials, their workmanship, but her designs. They had the productive capacity, but not the design. She had the design, but not the productive capacity. So she puts the two together, brings it in, she can keep up with all of her demand. Sell more and more and more. And then from there she goes into mugs and plates and t-shirts, and then she gets up to $25 million in sales where she wanted to be in kiosks and Macy's and does real well. She's passed away a few years ago, but That's how her company got started. She is, although almost nobody's ever heard of her, she is so popular and so well known, even though nobody's ever heard of her, that Franklin Mint, purveyor to those who still have a little bit of money left on their credit card, sells her products. And this is probably worth $100,000 up front in royalties to her advance. And this is a plate, a cat plate, Laurel Birch cat plate. Do you see any Balinese in there? Squint, maybe a little? No. Let me turn it around. Would the Balinese ever come up with such a wonderful selling plate themselves? No, absolutely not. But that is an American designer working with them, coming up with a product that will sell. Got that? Okay. Super premium prices. So what the deal is here, you got to find a field that you absolutely love, get in touch with your feeling, experience the problem of the field you're in, and come up with a solution. For example, you're driving down the road in a single-engine car, which most of them are. The engine conks out on the freeway. What do? Well, you stop and everybody honks, or conk, 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 you pull to the side. Big deal, right? What if you're in a single-engine plane and the engine conks out? Now you've got a problem. So what do? Well, single engine, you jump out of the airplane with your parachute? No. In those single engine planes, weight is everything. You can't give parachutes to everybody on those single engine planes. It's going to cost too much to fly the plane. It's going to be too much weight. No, that's not going to work. Why don't you just put a parachute on the airplane itself? Now, have you thought about this? Promise you ever fly in a single engine airplane, you'll think about this. And everybody who's ever been in a single engine airplane has thought about this. Let's put a parachute on the entire airplane. Well, so many people thought about that that Cirrus actually sells this airplane now. So when you're up there, conk, 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 and you sail on down. You can go to their website and watch this happen. And it sails down and it gets down to a 12-foot drop. Well, a 12-foot drop in an airplane is still going to be a hell of a conk, but it's not going to be death-dealing, right? Okay, so that's the deal. There you go. There's a solution to the problem. You may love flying, you may love the aviation industry, but you don't have to get into airplanes. All you have to do is sell the parachutes. Does it make sense? Okay, so love the field, solve the problem. And it can be anything at all. Here is campers. This is, I know it's not a very good picture, but this is out of a catalog here, where the tent. Now the problem with the tent camping out in the wild is the bears come in and eat your food. So what they tell you to do is run your backpack out over a limb and run it up and tie it down so that it's hanging out there so the bears can't get your food when you're out hiking, right? You learn that when you're going to be out camping? Anybody ever got camping will know instantly the bears walk up to the thing, untie the knot, lower it down, take what they want. Any bear that hasn't figured that out isn't going to last long anyway. Been camping around bears, been face to face with bears, I don't like camping. Well, somebody had the bright idea, don't run your food up on a limb, run the entire tent up on the limb. Here is a better tent. Now, remember I said about the Nikes being $35 a pair? This is $50,000 for this tent. A $50,000 tent. It's got a wood floor. It runs up onto the tree, it hangs from the tree so the bears can't get you. Now, the only thing that's going to happen here is you're going to be up in a tree and you're going to find the bear climbing in with you. And on the ground, you can run. Up here, you're going to have to jump. You're going to need, well, let's get back. You're going to need that parachute to get out of there. But anyway, so $50,000 to solve that problem. Does that sound excessive? Well, for a telephone to sell well, it's got to be like every other telephone. I mean, it's got to work with every other telephone. You ever heard of Bong & Olufsen? Company that sells better stereo equipment, better video equipment. Okay, nobody's ever heard of Bong & Olufsen? Oh, there they are. They do sell a telephone called the Baocom 2. Okay? They've had this in the line for about 8 years. Why do they keep it in the line? Because it sells well. It works with all other phones in the world because it's just a telephone. But what's the price of the telephone? $995 for a telephone. Okay? How many do they sell? Not many. Remember, there's not going to be a lot of people. But people do buy it. That's why they keep it in the line. $995 for a telephone. All right. So don't worry about the price. We're not competing on price.
Here comes the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Excuse me, Mr. Officer. Still love you like that.